Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How was that case study, by the way? Anybody was able to look at that and, you know? I can't say I blame you. As a former student myself who did some of this stuff like you're doing, I'm like, they're the same. Doggone case study.
It parallels a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
It parallels a lot of stuff that we experience.
Yeah, you noticed that already, yes?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what
Good
good afternoon, come right in. I was hoping you'd see that, interestingly enough.
People are people are people.
Interestingly enough.
Committees are committees.
Absolutely, it doesn't matter whether it's
Boards are boards.
A, D, B, C, Middle Ages, Dark Ages, contemporary, doesn't matter. Time keeps changing, but people continue to remain fundamentally.
Nothing new under the sun, sir.
No. Fascinating. Fascinating. Especially when it comes to this and that. Father's sick, this and that. Alright. So we're going to finish up a little bit more about credit and credit risk management, and then a little discussion on operational risk somewhere at the end. Did anybody get as far as the little project management thing close to the end? Not yet, getting there. What the hell is that?
Project financing, sir.
Yeah, the project financing thingy. Has anybody ever been a part of any project financing program? Like you're a part of a project that you're trying to get off the ground and you're trying to figure out, first of all, how you're going to raise the money. Thank you.
No, I didn't.
How you're going to be repaid, if that's the case. What is the risk of getting involved in those projects in the first place? I don't think it's being recorded. Man, we want to record it. It's not good. Sometimes they say incriminating things. Then they could go back and replay it. Then I'll be like Bill Cosby. Did you or did you not? Did everybody? Who's that?
Me.
Oh.
I know. I give up, man.
I email, you want email? I email, you want email?
One email will not do it.
No, he said everyone.
Yeah, everybody has to send it. You have to gang people in the 21st century
Yeah.
to get anything done.
No, but I don't think nobody sent it.
Take a page out of this group. Let me see if I can remember all the letters. L, G, B. Oh, that's sick. T, no? T. He doesn't even want to have the discussion. Q. W. The flick?
What did you do before?
I don't know. I have too many other problems to be worrying about. What it. My wife is still looking at me with a smile on her face. I have to deal with that. Man,
Hear you.
you don't tell I said that. But one thing you could take from this gang, whoever they are.
They follow drill.
Who said that?
Radio.
Yeah. Yeah, they will petition
Mark.
and petition and email.
They right there.
Giving you one email.
That's the most organized gang in the world.
Yeah.
There you go.
They ain't going by that stadium though.
Which one? What stadium is that?
Last, on the weekend, isn't it?
I can show you a video.
No, man, they said.
No, wait, not in Nassau. You gotta get it.
Who got a number? Let me send.
That was a video of two fellas snatching over there.
Why are you singing Blue Bye Bye?
In Nassau?
Who sang that?
The slip is somewhere. There it is.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. Perfect. You can sing that song.
Did Buju actually come?
Yeah, sing that song.
I need he go to jail and come back. Come out somewhere. He was saying Blue Bye Bye.
Folks, since we're talking about risk management, how is it that the Commonwealth became the first stop right after?
Prison?
No,
Jamaica.
that doesn't count. That's where it was born. That does not count.
Well, he can make you make money.
Where they spend, where they are.
How come they picked us first?
I know they pick.
We must be picking
pick
first.
it.
The promoters brought him. The promoters brought him, stop it.
Who were the promoters anyway?
Paradise Production.
Who are they?
Take him down.
Yeah.
Take him down.
But I think I'm
Because you know when you're in risk and compliance, you have to keep drilling down until you get to
ultimate
the
benefits.
benefits. The UBO. The UBO. That's sick.
Ultimate benefit bonus.
Super washers.
Super wash.
Which, you mean our Super Watch?
Yeah.
Watching the show?
Subliminal message,
You
man.
watching it?
Super wash.
They watch it.
Yeah. Super wash.
I need to dance. That's what
All I can say is, you know, young people are living in perilous,
Time.
Time.
but not more perilous than before. Just different. Just sick. All right. I just thought I'd raise those issues because, yes, we are talking about credit risk and credit risk management and operational risk, but somehow everything seems to involve risk. Always did. Seems like we just started focusing on it a little bit more since the European Union, found out that a whole bunch of money was sitting in this part of the world. Not only were they displeased that the whole bunch of money was sitting in this part of the world, but they thought there were a whole lot of unpaid taxes. Is it just the unpaid taxes they want? Like, give us our taxes and leave the money.
No, they want the money.
They want the money as well, it seems. It started off with unpaid taxes, and then when that worked so well, I guess, sort of, they said, wait a minute, we want the money too in our banks. Speaking about our banks, there was a certain bank from the Philippines that was here for a long time. I won't call any name to protect the guilty. Protect the innocent. And then finally, the Philippine government decided, wait a minute, why should we have all those TDs here in this part of the world? Anybody knows what TDs are? Term deposits in the gazillions, gazillions in this part of the world, when we could have them in the banks where? In the Philippines in this case. Same thing with Europe though, same principle. So they set out some disincentives, see? That caused their Filipino bank to panic or say, well, we don't have any reason for being in this part of the world anymore because our government has provided us with what? Incentives to come back home. It's an interesting phenomenon. And so after a long time away, The bride returned to the, yeah. What kind of risk do you think that is? Where the bride returns to the groom.
Operational. Credit.
Well, I'm gonna just leave that with you guys.
Business.
All I do is create.
All the risks.
Yeah, it looks like all kinds of risk are there. Sick. Absolutely. The only banks we don't have to worry about at the moment, apparently, given all this risk, is Commonwealth Bank. Yay. And even though you're gonna keep talking about thing of them, this bank, Bob.
More lives in the gap.
Absolutely. Good evening. Thank God for these two, at least, no matter what happens. Then I noticed there's another bank offering offshore services, trusts and all that stuff. Anybody saw it? Starts at E.
Equity.
Oh, you saw it? Ah, yeah. Yeah, so you're not half rich Bahamians who have a little something. You could now go there and get some offshore services, they say. Let's see. So at least we have what? 2 Tingham and 1 Tingham. Does that help to mitigate against any kind of risk at all? I know it's weird, but yes, it does. At least we're not totally, like if everybody goes away, which will not happen hopefully, we still have these 2, and if everybody goes away, we still have this one. Yeah. All right, but we're not hoping that those things happen. We hope that we can get more people to come in and enjoy the stability that we have in the Commonwealth, and the fact that we no longer take suitcases of money, and we have great regulatory programs and things like that. Is Fidelity Bahamian Bank or not? Half and half? Anybody knows?
75% owned by the bank and trust company and 25% open shares.
Owned by
Payment.
General public.
25% Bahamian.
25. Okay,
Minimum.
great. 25%. That's a start. So go out and purchase some
Publicly traded.
Fidelity shares.
So
All right.
it isn't totally Bahamian.
No, it isn't totally Bahamian. We have at least a quarter so far, according to reports. Now, who the UBO is,
No, but that's what I'm saying. The general bank isn't, I mean, their board of directors and their directors and the owners and managers aren't Bahamian, isn't a Bahamian equity. They still reside in the world.
So you still trade in there?
Huh?
if they're still tied into whom?
To Royal Bank.
No.
Oh, that bank. Whether or not they're tied in would require some investigation.
But it's good then.
They're divorced or just separated?
No,
They didn't divorce.
they borrowed each other.
They're not divorced.
They divorced.
They're divorced now.
Yeah.
It's over.
Terry separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to make sure we use words carefully. Because they're divorced, that doesn't mean they cannot remarry?
No.
No, they could remarry. Is it likely? What is the risk of remarrying? Man. Just throwing out some stuff since we're talking about risk. My. To pull out so I can see these names. Okay, Tyrone.
Sir.
Yes, right here. Just making my last smash. Jonathan.
Yep.
Yes. Invisible ink. Stubbs. Right over there.
That's like.
The culprit. Desangela? Did I add that up? D'Angela.
Yes.
Stubbs.
Yes.
2 Stubbs?
Yeah.
married?
So the madness real? I was suspicious. But I didn't want to find a report.
I couldn't be my cousin. Look at me.
That's true. But you guys are not sitting like cousins now that I think about it. Oh, gone there. Man, it's a good thing I checked. I wish there must have been. That's still good. Checked it. Suppose I'd said something out of the way like,
That's a risk you got to take.
like I saw Anthony. You say, oh, you see that?
In the ring.
That's how. All right, way to go. Husband and wife, absolutely. Yes, she's like Mrs. Wilkinson. She said, monitoring. You going to that class too?
Yeah.
You're going to Long Island with I got that too. Don't you have something else to do, sweetheart? No, nothing else to do. Except turn when you bloody turn. Now, that's what we call risk mitigation. Alright, yes. Tanya. Tonya. Yes. Royanne. Right over there. Who's your partner in crime, Ryan? Yeah? Well, ask me. Just not here. Okay. Ryan.
Right here.
Yes. How do you pronounce Kwame, is it?
Woman.
Kwame, yes. Cambridge. It's not Cambridge?
Cambridge.
Where's Cambridge? Oh, over there. What's the first name again, Cambridge? Aspen. Aspen as an aspen? The aspen?
With an eye on
Tamika. Where's Tamika? Okay. Did you get the package?
I did, thank you.
Excellent. Just checking. Okay. Somebody. Tianya. Did I say that right? Johnson? Okay. Felisa. Right over there. Okay. Williams. Monique. Yes, Monique right there. Della Reese. Right there. Way to go. Oh, no, Mike. No, sorry. Della Reese, you work for whom again?
Bridge Authority.
On the Bridge Authority. What the heck do you guys do anyway?
We're a quasi-corporation where we're responsible for the management of the bridges in the Bahamas, all the maintenance. We don't get subvention from the Bahamas government, so we're responsible.
You guys don't get money from the government?
No.
How come?
We don't, because we're self-sufficient. We could do that ourselves,
Ah.
based on the tolls that we would have earned.
Oh, so those increases were the result of. How about that? And here I am thinking the government was involved. So there aren't any political appointments at the Bridge Authority then?
No.
Let's see.
Strong recommendation from the government.
Yeah. Just checking. Remember, this is a risk class. You just have to see what the risks are everywhere. Okay. Kendallette. Yes, right over there. Francis. From Ann's. What do you do at Ann's Bank of Kendallette?
Client relationship officer.
How exciting is that?
Not really.
Not really. Any risk involved there?
Yes, plenty.
Plenty. What do you do when you see the risk coming?
I gotta manage it.
Yeah, manage it. Way to go. Do you do any credit applications in your job?
No.
No. Okay. That's okay. A lot of people do. Way to go, Kendallette. Cindy? Oh, Cindy. I'm right here. Looking at. Okay, Cindy Curtis, Commonwealth Bank. And Charmaine. Yes. Commonwealth Bank. Boy, it's a good thing I had good things to say about Commonwealth Bank. The room is full. And you never know when you have to go somewhere to borrow.
Yeah.
Imagine me saying, Commonwealth, then I have to go borrow money. And folks remember, you say, yeah, you're the bastard, Mr. Wilkinson, who said all those things. In the old days at Scotiabank, we used to say, so customers didn't know, 110. What was that?
110, no good.
Yeah, 110? No.
No.
So if you have an old application, 110 on it?
Still do that.
You still do it?
Still do that. It's trademark.
Yeah, the trademark.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
The first time I
yeah,
It's
so,
a 110.
yeah, 110. If you see that on anything, dog, eat your lunch. Because after you leave, we put the... Yeah, back in those days when I had an afro, I used to do like, I know it's hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe.
Funny picture.
I used to do like mortgage loans and consumer loans and commercial loans and all that stuff. So I've seen quite a bit of 110. All right. Does anybody remember where we stopped the last time?
Yeah.
Should I keep going, keep going, keep going?
Page 35.
Can I take off this alphabet soup now?
Yep.
Page 40.
35.
Number 40.
My baby, who's a little more adventurous than my older son, who's much more conservative. My baby's a little conservative too, but he's a little more radical. Like he's growing this crazy thing here, and he loves it. Like, oh, Dad, look at that. Like, why don't you cut your hair, son, the way it used to be in high
Yeah.
school? He's, oh, I couldn't cut my hair in high school. Now that I'm a man, I can grow it. And it is my intention to grow it until I'm tired of it. What the hell can I say?
Nothing.
All I can say is, I hate to hear, but you're still cute and you're still my son. That's all I could say.
Baby, no, Lord.
So he came to me not too long ago, because he was reading up on this same alphabet soup thing. So he said, Dad, I told you risk is everywhere, even in your home with your family. Dad, suppose one of your sons was gay. What would you do? This man, what the hell kind of question?
It's my son. He's here.
That's your son?
Yeah.
You are my condolences. Here I am thinking, if you guys, misery likes company. I
Yeah.
feel so much better now.
And every time it's way down in the middle of his back, and I'm like, honey, why don't you cut that?
No,
mommy.
no.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
As a
do
matter
it.
of fact, the more you ask them,
the more
long,
it
yes.
gets, and the longer it grows.
So I've stopped asking. And I hope, I was desperate. I said, I hope you get it bald one day. Whatever, you get desperate. And then you leave it. That's the best thing to do. See what happens. So he wanted to know what would I do. Now, clearly, that is a risk issue, at least for some people. And this is the kind of guy who doesn't want any beating around the bush. He's not into diplomacy. If you ask him his opinion, he will tell you point blank, nothing personal. He won't hold it against you.
Straight ahead, straight ahead.
He'll just give you his opinion. So I had to be direct with my answer, otherwise he'd call me a fraud. Not openly, indirect, like, oh, Dad, why didn't you just answer straight up? That's the kind of guy he is for some reason. His brother, none of that stuff. Oh, Dad, let me think about it. The circumstances are such that it does require further. He's like that, the older one. So what did I say? I said, is a delegate. I said, son, while I have nothing against people who are gay, I do have my thoughts and my issues about guys who are gay. So, Dad, if one of us what would you do? I said, well, since you're my son, I would love you as usual, unconditionally. without question. However, because of my stuff, don't invite me to the,
Wedding,
don't bring him home for the,
Christmas,
or
Summer.
Thanksgiving.
or
That's not unconditional.
No,
no, not.
Yes, we draw together.
Remember, my love is unconditional for who?
him.
My
Not-
son,
Not,
not Tingham.
yeah.
Feel free, son, to come home when,
You feel like it.
anytime,
Not the
but don't bring
And company.
hang on.
and try to force me to
Love him.
and accept stuff.
No.
I have no problem with him as a
Yeah.
person. Don't get me wrong, like a person.
Yes, thank you.
You wouldn't love the baby girl?
She wants to further complicate an already complicated.
Situation.
No, you can stand your grandchild? No, man.
No, but he could bring the,
Baby.
my son can bring the,
Baby.
yes, but he cannot bring
Bring him.
and try to force me to
Love him.
in my own
House.
mother's sick.
Feel the same way.
But again, I don't have anything personal against Tom Jones. As a person, at all, and as a human being, not at all. Remember, even Jesus himself said, I love all. However,
We hate the
I
sin.
call but it's sick. Okay, moving right along. Why should I raise my standard above
Yeah.
his? But it's sick. But he said, I love all. However, okay, I don't know why the hell my son asked me that. Hypothetically. That's what he said. Daddy, hypothetically.
You an answer?
That was my answer?
Like, why you asking me? You asked me for.
Oh, yeah, I asked him why he asked. He says, I was just curious, Dad. Just don't think that I am. However, I was curious.
You in love?
That's sick. Just when you think you're out of the woods, your adult children start doing stuff, asking questions, acting weird. Yeah. As soon as you get them out of Pampers and high school and crap, they grow up and start with another bloody. So you're never out of the risk, are you? You just seek ways to what? Minimize it. Absolutely. You know, Mr. and Mrs. does remind me of me when I was young. I still do some of that crap now. Somebody has to be the devil's advocate. Okay. I thought when I was driving here, my wife was looking at me smiling and said, "What happened, hon?" She said, "Nothing."
Just because.
Like, how come? After all these decades. Doesn't matter.
He'll die.
And I'm driving to a risk class. Okay. Well, it's sick. You're just never out of the woods. Man, we did all this stuff already? Okay, keep moving.
Number 47.
She was at 40.
Scorecard.
Oh, we're in the scorecard already? Did we do the principals?
Yeah.
Yes. Who was at the top of the list for principals? Who was supposed to lead the charge? Who is? The board. The board. The board. Lead the charge. If the board is sucks, everything else will suck. Sorry. As with anything else, if the head sucks, everything, dog eat the rest of our lunch. You don't remember microfinancing?
Yes. You did that.
We did that?
Yeah.
You were here?
Yes.
She's like, what
Yes.
That's what we
the
did.
hell was I?
That's what we
No,
did.
according to my book, we ended at item number 40, account risk rating categories. There's no writing on credit risk ratings, micro.
Yeah, we did the principals the last time.
Didn't we talk about the Basel extra?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we talked about Basel. That we have to consider the internal risk rating as well as the pricing of the facilities and so on. Okay. She said, yeah, I get that one. All right. And then we went into the risk rating system. That this is one of the most popular methods to monitor credit by setting up what we call a standardized system. Why standardized?
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency. Because if it isn't standard, people keep changing it depending on their mood, how much money they get from somebody, how big the bribe is, and so on. Even with standards, you still get people who, I ain't breaking my standard, I don't care. Okay. That credit bureau, any more discussion on that? Anybody? Is that still coming?
Yes, sir.
You mean it's imminent?
Yeah.
Why are we so gung-ho on making it imminent? Why? Anybody know?
IP.
Because the US has it. We're copying as usual? Oh. There's nothing else hideous behind it other than that?
The company that was chosen is out of Europe.
Europe, the European Union?
The one who brought us to
The enemy?
Hello.
Sorry, they're not good. Somebody has to be a devil's advocate. Is it really out of Europe?
Yeah. It's the same company that operates in Jamaica. Out of Jamaica. We met with them last week.
Oh,
You need it though.
we need it?
Don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Looks like whether we fight it or not, it's coming. So all of us with bad credit, we just need to go try and hustle a loan quick. Go to go to CV and get a consolidation before it gets here. So by the time it gets here, the only thing they can write you down on is that you consolidated 7 loans. Maybe you start off with a low score on that, but pay that well, and maybe you'll be able to get a loan eventually again in your lifetime. Oh man. All right. So what are the objectives? Did we talk about that? The objectives of the credit risk rating system? We did. Be what? Proactive rather than reactive. Always a good idea. All right. She said, I don't remember that. No. Oh, you remember? We did the micro macro.
Yeah.
Yep. For those of us. And then we talked a little bit about the grading system. All right, whether the facility should get a pass or it can end up in this. The law, yeah. Which one of them will be? My God. All right. How do you determine when an account is potentially doubtful? What kinds of things would prompt you? Doubtful.
Loss of
Past
job.
due on frequently?
Loss of job.
Somebody's lost their job?
Yeah.
Type of job.
Type of job? Yep. Divorce?
Yep.
So you know when people get divorced, somebody stops paying.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't paying for that chick. She get me mad. I ain't paying my half no more. No, I ain't paying nothing.
Deduction, yeah, that's not deduction.
Yeah. The salary deduction stops.
I quit.
Sell it.
Boy, that's a panic for any loan officer. You go to check for the normal payment, all of a sudden 7 salary deductions stop in 1 month. It's a nightmare. Okay? So yeah, the rating system we said should reflect what the complexity, etc. of the lending environment. If it's a simple environment, don't make the rating complex. If it's a complex environment, don't make the rating system too simple. Okay? We talked about capacity, the creditworthiness and ability to pay, and that we should look at that separate and apart from the facility itself. We'll see a little later that there's a hybrid system. I'll get to that later. What about these people, collateral guarantors and grant and all? Who are they? Why are they there? For credit people, why are they important? Collateral, grantors, letters of credit. Why?
Backup.
Additional security.
Yeah, if you get collateral, if they stop paying for some reason, you have something to fall back on. Like
All of them the same.
Property.
All of the same.
when you say all of the, you mean all 3 of them?
Yeah, they basically guarantee.
They're all designed to guarantee. The mechanism's a little different. Collateral is something tangible. The guarantor is a person usually, or some entity maybe. All right. Whereby if the principal that stops paying for some reason, the guarantor will kick in and pay the balance or continue making payments. And of course, letters of credit are always good, especially if you're dealing in a foreign country that you're not familiar with and you're waiting for your money to come. please do it through a reputable bank, through a letter of credit, to try to guarantee your payment. Try to get the guarantee before you ship. Because once you ship and you don't get a guarantee, dog eat your sick. This unsecured loans, ratings have to vary. Clearly, the rating for an unsecured loan be different from a collateralized loan. Okay? And so lenders have to keep that in mind. Doesn't mean that some people are not qualified to get unsecured loan. Lots of people have unsecured loans. The problem with unsecured loans is that sometimes they're not based on the standards set by the lending organization. They're just based on somebody's relationship with somebody else. But that's enough. Yes, you remember that.
Die.
So every time I shower, I remember that. That's the whole idea, to say something so you can remember. All right, the dual rating systems. One, technology on the one hand, and regulators on the other. The lesser of two evils. But lenders and credit people have to consider both. Because regulators are always looking, especially those who dig from Basel, who are looking at credit. Because remember, it was credit that caused the 2008. Yeah, absolutely. Pissed the whole world off, and particularly the Europeans. So they're coming at banks with everything they've got in terms of making sure that these guys be a little more what? Responsible in their lending practices. The real problems were not down at the credit card level, consumer loans and all that stuff. That's not where the real problems were. The real problems were those collateralized loans and other major multi-million-dollar loans that were given to dubious companies and entities for dubious reasons in some cases. Some were legitimate, they just didn't work. Many of them were questionable. And some of them knew right off the top that they would suffer a loss. But since they were getting whatever they're getting. Can somebody give a loan facility knowing that it's going to fail? They shouldn't, but it could happen. By all means. John, I'll give you 10 million, you give me 5, and then I'll get the board to write it off. Why not? Is that a possibility?
Yeah.
Of course, especially if you have the board under your
Belt.
yeah. Boards are not friendly by accident. Some of them are friendly for question.
No, I say don't say it.
Oh. Don't say it.
Don't call the name.
No name. You mean this is real? Yes, it is real. Though I speak hypothetically. It is real. For sure. Okay? All right. So, risk rating systems then must be governed by 3 areas since they are so important. Why are risk ratings so important? Because when you look at the rating, just like regulators and others, when they look at ratings, they say that you are making an assessment of your portfolio, whatever that is, and the rating will determine whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Okay? Good, bad, or ugly. So those ratings are now a key source of information for regulators and countries and everybody who's looking at facilities. So anywhere you go now in the world, everybody put their risk rating thing up. Even before they present themselves. When regulators come in, before they I don't want to talk to anybody, I want to see your risk ratings. You don't want to meet the chairman of the board? I'll meet the chairman later. I want to see your risk ratings.
What is interesting, Wilkinson, in terms of the grading system that they do for countries? You know, triple B, minus B1, it's all it's so confusing that no one knows really what they mean.
Yeah. They say they have certain criteria they use. They talk about some of the criteria. How they apply that criteria is sometimes still questionable. Some of them applied with good intent. Not all of them applied with good intent.
I mean, because you look at, you see capital B, triple capital B, then a small b.
Yeah, like what the hell all that
all
means.
that? Yeah.
Okay? And I don't know where the hell you need to go and find it. Like 3 capital 2b small b squared to the 9th doggone in brackets 2.
Degrees per section? Or?
Maybe. But it does raise the question, why don't you just say A? And the criteria for A is whatever it is. And then Z, worst, criteria for Z is? Well, this, yeah, 1A, B2, capital B, small b. It would be interesting to find out why they came up with that and why they continue to what? Persist with it. Does it really have any substance, or it is just designed to what? Confuse.
Confused.
Yeah.
Confused. Justify their decision.
But when you raise those kinds of questions, you tend to come under fire a little bit like, you're like, what the hell? This dude.
Most of them, what they are paying.
And that's Tyrone who grew up in Beantown. And he's asking why we have AAA-BQ. Shouldn't he just shut up and go back to that place where he works and shut? It's not an economist. It's just time.
Oh.
Folks will come up with any reason to get you to what? Shut the hell up. Sorry, it's true. All right. So what is this risk rating thing? Well, if you're going to have a risk rating, you need to have a what? Risk rating policy. Remember, these are the days when everything needs to be written down. And if you don't write them down, you get fined. And if you don't write them down completely, you get fined. And if you don't write them down to the satisfaction of the completely satisfied, you'll get fined. The idea is to make sure that you are as complete as possible. And there's a reason for that. Because if you give too much leverage, folks will write one paragraph. There's our policy. On one page. Take it off, leave it. So we have to intimidate some firms so that they don't come up with this one page policy for everything. All right? For sure. We must make sure that this risk rating is so structured that it is not it does not come under what?
Undue influence.
So you in middle management can come up with some great ratings. And by the time it gets to the board, can the board unduly influence it?
Of course.
By all means. Mr. Stubbs, the young punk we just hired, has suggested that we standardize our rating. Doesn't he know that we are going to create undue influence? Tell that boy, focus on what he...
It's hard to do.
Stop making these kinds of suggestions. Wasn't he born in Fort Fincastle? By the thing? Yeah. Whatever we have to do to get you to, shut the hell. Alright, so watch out for... I don't put it's there. And also, watch out for because sometimes perception is even greater than reality.
Yeah.
Did you know that, folks? So be careful. Final responsibility should be separate from what?
Anyone
is compensated by.
So if you have totals to meet or you're getting a certain amount of money from meetings, you shouldn't be risky rating anything. Because you're going to risk rate it according to what you're doing. And it's indeed. Okay? All of a sudden, anything is an A. Perfect. Because your portfolio needs to be protected at all costs. Because you're protecting your what? Income. And sometimes even your job. Okay? The person responsible should be different from the person approving. So if you're approving loans, you shouldn't be setting any risk ratings. Some organizations have one person doing both. You shouldn't be doing it. A small organization might do that.
Yeah.
It's even risky then. Even if you're small, let the loan officer book the loan and let the manager or somebody else, whomever that is, whomever, anyone else other than the person booking the loan. So you can give that appearance of what? Independence. Because if you have regulators come in, they don't feel that there's an independent situation, they're going to jump on you and say there's undue influence here and downright disregard for the risk rating process. That's what will happen. All right. Why do we have these approval levels? Well, a couple of reasons. What are the typical reasons? Well, if the portfolio is large, then we have approval levels. You can sign up to 10, you can sign up to 100, you can sign up to 1 million, and the rest of us will sign up to a gazillion kind of thing. Okay. A change in risk rating from the prior period. Any changes that you have to do, well, you need to make sure that that is independent. Make sure that the risk rating, the final risk rating, if it's different from the scorecard, you need to find out why. Why is the scorecard up here and the risk rating is over here? In other words, if the scorecard is saying, don't do this loan, and the risk rating is saying, this is a great loan, is that a problem? It is a problem. It is a problem. Okay. Management must ensure that risk ratings are what? Assigned what? Why does it be timely? Why isn't it accurate enough? What's wrong? What's with timely? Why do risk ratings have to be timely?
Performance of a loan can change over time.
Yeah, loans change, and if you don't change the ratings at the time loans change, it'll give you the wrong what? Information. The wrong perception. The wrong reality about a particular facility. People's conditions change all the time. The problem is, oftentimes when we give credit, we get comfortable. As long as payments are coming in, we what? Forget about it. Thank God I have my spouse now, I need to worry no more. Is that true? You don't need to worry anymore? You better start monitoring now. Now that you're married, monitor. Now that you give the credit, monitor. Now that you've made the suspicious transaction report to MLRO, monitor.
And downgrade when necessary.
Yeah, or up. Absolutely. That's what the monitoring process is all about. So you can make the changes on time, accurately and timely. So very important. Why do we have review levels again? Control, control, control. Remember, those who are reviewing these things and coming up with risk ratings and stuff, we call them credit analysts, but you know, they set ratings. We have to make sure that we know what they're doing at all times and that they're applying their what?
Expert.
Now, expert judgment is kind of like intangible, but certain decisions that we make can help people determine whether our judgment is what? Expert or flawed. Has anybody seen any flawed judgment lately? F-L-A-W-E-D? No?
One that we can talk about.
Sorry?
One that we can talk about.
Without calling names.
It's terrible in Freeport.
Freeport?
It's terrible.
What's going on in Freeport anyway?
I don't know.
I thought we just signed a thing of letter of intent in Freeport. Things are going to be great.
Collapsing, all that.
That's flawed judgment.
That's flawed judgment? You mean that's fake news?
No, that's flawed.
Oh, flawed, not fake. That's sick. Should they do with Freeport instead? Because when you say it's flawed, now you have to come up with a?
Solution or recommendation.
It's flawed! Now, and you recommend? Well, I don't know. Ask me what I recommend they should do. It's flawed. Be careful with that. All right? Regular reporting. Anybody does monthly reports in their job? Every month, every week, every quarter, bunch of reports all the time. Do you know why? Because reporting does what? It's a form of monitoring. It gives management at different levels to see snapshots of what's going on, to see how things are moving. And if they get these reports in time, they can make what? Timely decisions. If you get them once a year, all too often it's going to be too late. Sorry? Bahamas Development Bank. Is it Bahamas Development Bank?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going. Run with it.
I'll leave it to perception. Alright. So, for those of you who are still wondering, there's your definition of credit rating. Have fun with that. You're going to move right along. Notice credit risk ratings are designed to what? Predict whether or not your client is going to follow through and to try to determine whether or not your debtor will what? Default. These are key stuff. And that's the whole idea. For example, if A is excellent and D is poor, then any particular facility that you see with A, you're going to assume that they have the ability to pay and there's a minimum or no likelihood that they will default. On the other hand, when you see the D client, you'll start thinking just the opposite. Okay? And that's really the whole idea behind credit risk rating. And that's why it has to be what? Free of bias. Free of corruption. Free of corruption in the Bahamas?
No.
Do we have the appearance of corruption? See, so we have the appearance and the real thing. Just depends on we who are. Oh, man. So what systems are out there to make your risk ratings work? Well, we are told it must be universally understood. What does that mean? Everybody in your firm who needs to know should?
No.
Anybody ever work somewhere where some know and some don't know?
Yep.
Big problem everywhere.
Swiss bank.
I didn't hear it. You heard it? No, I heard it. Yeah, I heard it. You heard it. No, I didn't. The Swiss people, not people. Swiss bank. It's only.
We got some Chinese walls of this world.
Yes. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And depending on whether it's French Swiss or European, the thing I was thinking, oh my God. Okay. You'll only know what they want you to know. Chinese walls. Do we still have Chinese walls? Do the Chinese still have Chinese walls?
The Mexican walls coming.
They just- Again, your risk rating must be standardized, it must be accurate, it must be clear, and it must be brief. So if you are responsible for risk rating of anything, do not complicate it unnecessarily. That's the whole idea. You don't want it so simple that, preschoolers, yeah, I get it. But you don't want it so complex that it doggone mixes up and pisses off everybody concerned. Okay? You want it simple, to the point, and accurate. Doggone it. Some person, like that one ABBBTQ, say, anyway, I guess not too bad. One letter. Alright, so this is not too complicated. 1A means highest quality, blue chip, no problem. 1B means it's very strong, and so on. I guess it's 1A and 1B because, anybody knows?
That's what they call it.
That's what?
One of the
The grades.
A means highest quality and B means not so high, but like maybe.
One of them is worse than the other, but still high quality.
Probably.
Yeah.
In any event, these ratings should have like a little thing at the bottom that says 1A. Well, this is trying to say it, but why we have A and B, maybe that might be helpful to somebody making the assessment. Otherwise, we'll have to try to guess, like, oh, A is highest, B is not so highest.
One is A plus.
Yeah, one is A. Well, no. The point is, if you start raising too many questions about A, maybe we should do something about the A. Okay? All right. Then 2, you're fully satisfactory people, solid, no previous problems, but they're not great enough to be 1A and 1B. How about that? Whatever that. Solid performer, no previous problems, sounds like 1A and 1B to me, doesn't it? So that's interesting. It's a little ambiguous, isn't it? Solid performer, no previous problems. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
There are some current problems? I don't know. But from based on this, it doesn't seem too much of a difference from. Yeah. Yeah, apparently 1A and 1B has something that 2 does not have. Okay? Yes, something. Some criteria, yeah. And that's why the criteria has to be what? Clear. It is 1A because the income level is
X,
$1 million and
yeah.
above. It is 1B because the income level is between the job stability is, whatever it is. Okay? That's the point. All right. Anything else? Yeah. 3, minor weaknesses, but still acceptable on the watch list. So things get a little stinky in the middle. Okay? So somebody says, oh, I'm in the middle. Stay in the middle. Number 4, rating 4, weak. There's a possibility that this is headed for loss. Start beefing up your collection efforts with gusto. And if you can call the loan, maybe it's time to start thinking about calling the loan while you can still find the collateral or even sell it. Now that place that got the stuff from Bank of the Bahamas, what do we call it again? Resolve. I understand that they have some collateral that they'll have to put up for fire sales and so on. Because people know that it is resolved, the bids are going to be what?
Low.
On purpose. So you get the highest, lowest. which means that they have some considerable risk trying to what? Offload those collateral items. And once they do that, chances are the full loan will never be repaid. Who are they going to put through court once the collateral is gone? Tingham and Tingham them and the estate them? I don't know. All I know is Resolve has a lot to resolve. Still. But they are very quiet, aren't they? They don't seem to be giving the public any updates on that very public matter involving the $500 million people money thing. It's still our money, isn't it? It's still guaranteed by the government, isn't it? Which means if something happens, the government still has to do what? Cover it? With whose money again?
People's money.
Alright. Since we're talking about risk. Number 5, partial loss. Things are stinky. A certain portion of it is now already uncollectible. Sounds like resolve issues, and a provision is now required. I wonder what the standard or the rules are for provisioning at resolve. Do they have any at all? What is the criteria? Nobody knows. It's all a big
Mystery.
So if you feel froggy, make something cry. If you don't have a job the next day, you know why. You made inquiries about a matter that is destined to something. And then finally, rating number 6 suggests full law. The point here is, once you establish the policy and the parameters, there's no doubt in anybody's mind. And everybody who's impacted should have access to this thing, whatever it is, in your firm. So even if you're half drunk or half dead, 6 months sick, man. That's gone. See? You're drunk and you know. That's what standardization does. That's the beauty of it. However, if there's no standardization, wow. Doggy, yeah. Anybody can change crap anytime, manipulate it, play games, run some program. That's it. It was that yesterday, but today is another day, or whatever it is the hell we do. Okay. Even with standards, people still try to what? Manipulate. So, you have standards as a priest. Yes. Yes, I do. That means then, Rev, that you don't engage in certain things, correct? You understand my standards well. That doesn't mean that those standards will not be tested. So even with standards in the organization with these ratings, you can still be challenged. All right. My. Not to mention that periodically, year over year, you have to look at the standards you have and say, are these still what? Relevant. Okay, it's like being married 10 years. If you're married 10 years, like, it's like 10 years? Am I the same? Were you the same? What the hell? You have to evaluate it. And some people do evaluate it. And here's what they say. I've evaluated and I'm staying. Then others say, I've evaluated. And others have no evaluation. They just like, meanders through the whole bloody thing until they get old. It's be old now. All right. So who should we consider in this credit risk rating program? Well, we talked a little bit about microfinancing earlier, where you give these little small loans to poor people in third world countries to give them an opportunity to improve their lives.
That's what we do.
Who does that?
My firm kind of does that. We offer these trading accounts.
Yes.
And we open up a minimum like retail investors.
Yes.
For an opportunity to make some money.
Absolutely. And you don't need to have a lot of money to do it.
99% of the time you lose.
Yeah, welcome to the investment game. That's why you should only invest what you can afford to.
Right.
Absolutely. My son in New York called me and said, Dad, I bought 5 stocks.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? So you're a bloody junior investor now, son. And so every day he's watching the thing. It went up $2, Dad. And he's harassing my phone with it now. Every time it goes up 50 cents. It went up 50 cents, Dad. I wonder what he's gonna say when it goes down $70. And he sees his capital now. But that's why I tell him, only invest what you can afford to lose. If you cannot afford to lose it, don't mess with that crap. Okay. Then we have personal lending, which is consumer lending. We all know what that is. SMEs, you might discover that these small and medium-sized enterprises are not as small as you think in some cases. A lot of people think so. And then, of course, the well-known corporations and money that we provide. What's going on with what do they have in common? All of them have to consider what? Risk rating and risk rating policies. That's the key. Otherwise, they are not going to function as well as they should. Okay? We know what microfinancing is now, so we can move on to, well, we know who gets the money now. Okay? These are designed to foster sustainable, for people in third world countries, we know that now. Persons who don't have a whole lot of dough, who can make little trinkets, buy little bits and pieces of clothing, sell stuff, and eventually pull themselves out of the, yeah. Thank God for microfinance. Even big banks now are allocate a part of their what? Budget for microfinancing, because it's now becoming what? Very profitable. Remember I told you, if you give $1,000 to 1 billion people, are you in business? Big. If you lose 50% of the money, you still what? Ahead of the game. Not to mention the interest rate that you get to charge on a loan such as that. Anywhere from 12 to 18 to 20%. Depending on what country you're in.
You know, the Chinese understand that very well.
Very well. They already robbed Chinese walls. Yes, they do. Absolutely do. Okay? They understand how to manipulate money well, period. Don't pay 500 million people of their own, let them suffer. Keep the money to go into other people's country to buy them out.
Yeah.
Build stuff for them. Build a stadium.
That's what they did in Guyana.
That's what they're doing across the board.
Yeah.
Remember, there was, in the old days, there was imperialism when you go in and conquer and take stuff. Now there's economic imperialism. You go in and you show money, show me the money, like this. Yes. They don't have nothing to say, they bow with the wallet like that. Because they think we're all desperate. And to some extent, unfortunately, it's sick. Okay, microfinancing. The problems with it, hey, these people have too much money, so your loan's always in debt, in jeopardy. Make provisions for what you're going to lose, so that's what they're doing. Okay, they don't have any collateral, don't ask for none. But I'm going to hold your trinkets as collateral? Come on, stop the madness. I'm going to hold your inventory. Give it a break. What inventory? You mean these few things? No. Okay. Are you going to show them too? All right. But the point is, if you give enough small amounts at a certain rate of interest, it's very profitable.
Yeah.
All right. Who are involved in this? Credit unions do it. You have $1,000 in credit union, we'll give you $2. See? That's a microfinancing. Commercial banks is beginning to see it now. Okay, so they stinky with loans on one side and they allocate a little thing for microfinancing on the other side. So when you go in for school fees, they say, no, your risk rating thing they're not. But when you go in for a little microfinancing, you need $500, sure, at 27% or whatever. Okay? Cooperatives do it all the time. The Bahamas Development Bank say they do it for certain entrepreneurs who don't have capital to inject and all this stuff, and they want to get a boat to fight with Dominicans for crawfish and so on. Are they still stealing any Dominicans?
No, this is a good time to
That's the
say
thing.
that.
Yeah, you have to check for everything now. Any Dominicans in the room?
No.
And even if there were, let the truth.
Be told.
It's my father would say. So you walk upstairs and let the truth. I mean, don't ask him anything. Okay. So, what about personal lending? The biggest problem with personal lending is PD. That's not a disease, it's just a disaster. What is PD?
Probability default.
Absolutely. We have a whole mathematical thing. I'm not messing with that mathematical crap. We don't need to get into that. Just know that there's something mathematical for it as well. But really, probability default is trying to determine what is the likelihood that we are going to not get this, get this money back. this credit facility, okay? That is a big problem with personal lending or any lending, for sure. So be careful when you are lending anything. Consider your PD. This is the most important component, okay? Which is why banks have a long application. Bring your job letter. We're fighting PD. Bring how long have you worked there? Are you married? Sorry? Yeah, bring references from your pastor, from all over the place. Because we're fighting what? PD. Because we think that the more we get, we can make a better assessment and therefore lower the probability. Because remember, the lower the probability, 0.10 is a lower probability than 0.90. So if you can get it down to 0.10, 0.2 or something, hey, the loss will be minimal. And so we try to do all that we do, including scorecards. All these things are designed to fight PD. Believe it or not. Okay? When you loan somebody your rent money, you're fighting PD by telling them, I can kill you if you don't bring my rent. I ain't gonna lend you nothing no more. I can tell mommy, whatever it is. Fighting PD. Because once you give credit, PD steps in. Automatically. All right. There was a little discussion about the scorecard. Anybody read the scorecard? What is a scorecard? Just assigning scores to, predetermined scores to what? A certain set of criteria. A lot of financial institutions do that. You have to do it very carefully though. Okay? It's only a supplement. It's not. It shouldn't be used alone. Okay? You still need judgment training and all that kind of stuff. But the scorecard is to give you what? A more quantitative approach so that you can take everything, put it in the box, and see if you can fight PD. So, if you've been on your job for 20 years, you expect a better score than if you've been on your job 2 years. Things like that. Okay? Alright. Now, there is a scorecard coming up. And that's what I want you to see. Okay? Remember, notice here, the scorecard is developed as a mechanism to drive what? Consistency across the teams and assets. Alright? So that if you're using, for example, Scotiabank, for example, they have scores in the system. Even the loan officer don't know what the hell's coming up. They type in stuff, the scores are inside the system. And you don't know what the final score is until you press enter. So you cannot, even as a loan officer, manipulate the system. Of course, well, yeah. Because you know wherever folk are, we're always looking to manipulate. Okay? While the analyst is analyzing, he's oftentimes looking for ways to manipulate. First, the analyst might fall in love with the loan officer. So that's my bestest girl. I'll analyze this to hell in your favor, my angel. People do strange stuff when they
love.
Yeah, she goes a flick. And when you catch, you say, "What the flick? What was I thinking?" So what are some of the criteria? It's a long list, and any organization that gets involved, well, again, in the case of Scotiabank and any others, these things are assigned numbers. And they're put in the system, and not even the loan officers can see them until they are spilled out. That's the beauty of it. Okay? And you can see what some of the criteria look like. I think there's an example coming up. Yeah, here we go. Okay? So out of 250 points or whatever, if you're renting, your score is what?
Minus 13.
What?
If you're a homeowner, though, absolutely. If you're less than 23,
High risk.
I don't blame you. Because my baby's still in the bubble. I mean, he knows what's going on, sort of. But still, he's 21. I said, man, I need. I said, son, you know where the money comes? Oh, Dad, you know what's the top money. So he's still in the bubble. So yeah, this is high risk here. So minus 27. Between 23 and 42, minus 7. Okay, you can see the risk has lowered significantly. If you have an MBA or above, yippee, PhD and all that stuff. They didn't say you have nothing. Okay, high school diploma, you still get a little something. If you don't graduate from high school, well, that means you don't deserve a loan. No, a lot of people who have not graduated from high school pay their loans very well. So again, you have to be careful how we set the, yeah, absolutely. Okay? Some occupations are high risk, some are low risk, some are medium risk. If you're female, you get more points than if you are.
Male.
How come, guys? How the hell guys get so responsible?
Probably
Historical
data.
Historical data.
Historically speaking?
Yeah,
So
short-
the question
short
is,
attention
how the
span.
hell did guys get so irresponsible? Why? Why? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4 dudes.
They need to
What
answer.
do guys? Why are we so irresponsible?
Tell us.
I'll tell you why. Women tend to live on women, man. That's what I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we figure we're gonna drop dead sooner, so we may as well be completely irresponsible. Hey, I like that ourselves. I never thought about that. And even that is proven that our wives are gonna live at least 5 to 7 years longer or more.
It takes longer for most men to settle down.
I wonder
And
why.
if they got different baby mothers, that money spread out.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because guys always hunting around like. Yeah. Why the hell guys always hunting around? I don't see that. Well, maybe that's why. They don't even have dudes on this.
That's zero. That's just a minor.
Yeah, if we had male, probably be like minus 750. Man. Years in current job, less than 3. You can see what happens there. Okay? Time of current address, less than 4. So yeah, depending on the time frame and the criteria, you can get more points, you can get less points, and at the end of the day, they'll decide if you get this or above, we'll approve it. If you get this or below, we will decline it. Okay? That's reasonable. But again, that's not the... Sorry?
110.
Yeah, 110.
110.
Alright, but at the end of the day, that's only part of the process. We still need to consider all the issues. Okay? Let's not forget that it's more than numbers, it's also behavioral. Alright, if somebody manages their account well, you have to consider that, correct?
Yes.
Let's not forget that. If they handle their credit limits well, we need to understand that. If they use their banking facilities well, we need to, and so on. If they do a lot of business with you, they're consistent, these are things to also consider, not just the scorecard. Okay? For sure. For example, my 27-year-old, his scorecard might be on average somewhere, but he's a far more responsible guy than some 57-year-olds. So it's hard to just say what? Just the age alone.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to look at the behavioral aspects of the individual and or entity as well. Okay? Alright. SMEs, see that? Some of these can be in the millions, but they follow the same principle. Okay? Some of them have scorecards to help them balance their criteria. You can see with this kind of business going on that they need to have ratings that are reliable. If you give a $10 million loan, you don't want no ratings that are what? Half dead? No. When you look at that rating, you need to be satisfied as a board member, as a chairman, as a CEO, that that rating depicts what's going on with that facility. Doesn't mean it still isn't open to manipulation. Everything, unfortunately, is open to. But we have to keep trying to keep things above board. That's why we have regulators coming in. Regulate. Watch us. They're the monitors. To make sure that financial institutions are doing what they are supposed to do. Because history has shown that left unwatched. Left unwatched. Okay? It's just like with our children. Our children prove nothing when they're with us and behaving well.
Oh, yeah.
The real test is when you are not there. Yes. When daddy's little girl is not there with him. Mommy's little angel boy. My baby. My 97-year-old. Yes, my good son. If he shot the queen, he must have had good reason. The queen clearly was trying to take him out. I swear it on my grave. I don't care if I saw it. I know he's guilty, but that's my baby, he didn't do it. How about that? Alright? So what do SMEs do? They have risk ratings, but they have other things too, like financial statement, like account information, like all these kinds of management strategies. Why would a management strategy be important for an SME? Absolutely. Look at the money involved. That's not chip change. That's not a little consumer loan for school fees. This is huge. Even though we refer to them as SMEs. And we refer to them as that because compared to the multi-gazillion guy entities, it's small, but it's still big. Okay? All right. So those of us who are into this thing, you can see right away why it is that these things are so crucial. It's a big job. Financial institutions today are fighting every day to try and risk rate their facilities all the time. Continue to make changes, continue to come under assessment, change that, that's not suitable, fix that, move that. It's an ongoing fight. Okay? Consider the hard facts. What are the soft facts? What do you mean by soft facts? Management evaluation, why is that a soft fact?
Subjective.
It's subjective, yes. See, it's subjective. As opposed to an audited financial statement?
Objective.
Absolutely. Okay? The market is what? Subjective. Anybody? The market is very unpredictable, isn't it? Okay? So it's soft. It can change easily. As opposed to account data, whatever you deposit is, deposit it. Whatever you withdraw, you can't mess with that. Okay? So again, all of these issues, along with the risk rating, along with all the judgment and the expertise, we have to bring them all to bear on our final decisions. How about that? So if you think, oh, I'm going to go into the credit management thing because it's a piece of cake, any fool can give a loan.
You think?
You think?
That's right.
Think again. Okay? And depending on what firm and what types of loans you're doing, think again. It's a huge, huge issue. So huge that the whole bloody European Union, because remember, who really runs the world? In buying suite? Trust. That's where the Illuminati is, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guys who manipulate everything through the banking system. Credit and deposits, they run the world. Always have. So it's no child's play. This is serious, serious business. Look what happened to the world when the credit thing crashed. We all came to a what? A bloody standstill. I remember walking inside the stores, and some of the stores were empty because of the recessionary effects. Even something as simple as when they flew into the Twin Towers. For a couple of days, you couldn't find stuff on the shelf. Everything bloody stopped. My. I want to risk rate that. All right. So, don't worry so much about the PD. Please, I mean, if you feel mathematical, be my guest. All you need to do is take the formula, put some numbers in it, and calculate. But the whole idea at the end of the day is to what? Determine what is the level of exposure you have. Can you do that accurately and to the key? No, never. But these things are designed to what? Minimize your losses. Okay? So if you're dating and he never answers his phone at a certain time, just throw that thought. I'd throw that out since we're talking about risk. All right? We already talked about these hardcore issues that SMEs use. One of the other things that SMEs tend to use are what we call ratios. They take the financial statements and anybody ever work with ratios? Yeah, I wouldn't turn this into that kind of class. But these ratios are designed, again, to try to give some indication of, if you give $10 million to a company, you take the financial statement and say, is this company strong or weak? Is the man I'm dating strong or weak? Is the girl I'm cute or not? Whatever. Hey, somebody has to be the devil's advocate. All right? All right. More SMEs? Man, oh, what is SWOT, by the way?
Strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats.
So if you're a lender, you have to go into all that too. Okay? What are the strengths of this company that we propose to give this 500 million to? What are its weaknesses? Okay? You have to do that. Otherwise, you might be found wanting. What about the product life cycle? Is that important?
Yep.
If you're giving a loan? Absolutely. Would you give a loan to Kodak today?
Nope.
Is Kodak still around?
Nope.
Kodak what?
Entertainer.
But what about the company?
Yeah.
They're still around? What the hell are they
Still
doing?
around. They use them, their cameras still use
Just
them.
made more cameras the other day.
Oh, I thought it was a museum somewhere.
Museum.
Okay. But yeah, if you're giving a loan to companies whose product is on the decline, should you give them that money? Maybe not.
Blockbuster.
Okay? Yeah, where's Blockbuster? Are they still in business?
Blockbuster museum.
There's only one left in the world, they said.
Yep.
Alright? Other qualitative issues outside of numbers is the quality of your management, the level of your professionalism, and the personality of your management. Why is the management personality so important? Man, has anybody ever worked with a stinky?
Yes.
Yes.
Still present.
What do you think it means? Somebody like that. Anytime in your lives. And that's the soft side. The hard side is having people in charge of stuff who is running the company completely into the ground. And usually that is happening because of their own pride, arrogance, and doggone greed. All of the above. So who is heading this management personality? Transparency. If you have a management group that is not transparent, sick. And you think we're giving that company a loan, thinker? These are very important. You just can't look at the suit and the outfits. You have to look at who these people really are. What is their history? You have to do due diligence on them. Actually, just like you do due diligence when folks are coming into, do other kinds of banking. Drill down. Find out who the UBO is. The ultimate greediest one of all. Yeah. You'll be surprised. At the end of the day, you might decide, mother's sick. When you call your next meeting, credit meeting, for the $50 million, we can't do this. This guy is a sadist. He bites women for no reason. That's whatever it is. Yeah, he gets grabbing butts. Soon the company's going to get a what?
Lawsuit?
Yes. And then what's going to happen to our bloody loan? See, you just cannot discount it. You may think you can. Do chicks grab butts? No. But I said everybody like, are you kidding me?
Look at that group we had up there.
Hey, in the old days it wasn't a big deal. No problem. Now,
Harassment.
they even accused Biden. Huh? No, in the old days it was not a big guys and girls, not a big problem. Now they accused Biden.
Well, not accused, they have videos.
They have videos of Biden. It's true.
On public forums, yes.
Oh. Let's see. Okay. I don't know why we have all this crap here just to talk about non-financial analysis, but I do know this. This crap is here because it is absolutely necessary. And for those of you who may not be involved in lending huge amounts of money, that may mean nothing to you. But for persons who are involved in huge amounts of money, that is supposed to mean something to them. And I say supposed to because a lot of people are lending huge amounts of money, giving no consideration to this crap. Not crap, but you know what I mean. But they should. And oftentimes if they do, they'll find that they give what? Better loans. And they suffer less from PD. See how it all ties up? Absolutely. So it's not, some lenders only want to look at what? Numbers. Others only want to look at the qualitative side, which are non-financial. But you can't look at any one particular side. You have to look at the,
I had an example the other day, some company who wants to develop plastics. And, you know, one of the environmental impact of that was a big part of the credit decision. Because the government itself signed on to treaties where you're going to eliminate plastic in the country.
indeed,
And so again,
a classic case in point.
the person can understand why that played such a major factor. Financial looks good,
Yes,
but they have this mandate and the commitment of the country to eliminate the use of plastic products in the country by 2030 by such an aggressive amount every year. And I
yes.
said, you have to change your business model. You have to find another product.
The world is.
Absolutely.
And they can understand that.
Because, yeah, the borrower is only interested in getting what he wants, but the lender has to be well aware.
Yeah.
Now notice, that government issue is a qualitative issue. It's a non-financial issue, but it is absolutely crucial to the lending process, by all means. Now, if you want to make a quick buck, you say, I'll be lending to you for 5 years at a horrible rate, and then after that, we're out of here. But you really are not supposed to be thinking about it that way. You have to take in the whole, absolutely. Okay? Sorry?
No, I was saying, even with that, probably even a shorter time, because I mean, as a country, we've already started to move
We have.
and
Biodegradable
change the
products,
products and
yeah.
stuff
Indeed.
like that.
So shorter or not at all. The point is, a lot of lenders in a situation like that may be so busy trying to looking at the
Numbers.
interest income. Yes, interest income, that they forget to think that this political thing, this global thing now. Because if you're not talking about that globally, people look at you like Trump. They said, Trump, you're not fully interested in this. But yeah, it is a crucial factor. Okay? As a matter of fact, and very current. Okay? And so corporations, with all their financial statements, share prices, and everything they do, they have to think about stuff like that. The other thing corporations have to think about is confidentiality. Because we know that if certain information break, it could ruin a firm.
Whistleblower.
Absolutely. Serious reputation risk. Speaking of reputation, those doggone actresses and actors who paid off the school, are they in prison yet? They're not in prison yet? They got bail?
They haven't been indicted. They haven't been indicted.
They haven't been indicted yet?
No.
How the hell we have evidence against them who have been indicted?
They've been
No
named.
evidence against Bill Cosby and he's in prison. Can somebody explain that dilemma?
Complexion.
Oh,
Race.
oh my, can't be that simple.
No.
Let's say, are they going to go to prison?
Hardly not.
There's evidence. It's hardcore evidence.
Appearance of influence. But not
They're
that.
going to pay somebody to get
Don't mind. They got money.
Bill Richard and them, he can pay anyone. Him and all his money in prison, not his money, but you know. With no evidence.
To him, it's time.
How do you explain it? No evidence. We have evidence on thing of them. And they're walking around having. Where are all the other guys who were accused? Why aren't they in prison? Anybody knows? Oh, we were talking about this. But the reason why I raised that is because of this. How information can egg things up.
Oh yeah, massive company.
Absolutely. Which is why the top management of a firm, especially let's say the firm is looking to raise capital, they have to be on the up and up. Any chicks they see, they have to ignore them like this. Because guys are easily what? Distracted and be like, man, John, stop that crap. We have a doggone thing, what do you think, coming up. We're trying to raise $75 million. You're on here looking at chicks? Don't skyline. Don't even bump into no chicks right now. Because any information could destroy the deal, and for real. Especially in the US, where it's very fragile. The risk, man, if you have a deal like that in a corporation, hey, you better go in your padded room and don't move till it's finished. And you have the money in the bank. Because any little information, dog eat you, it's very fragile. Okay? For sure. Wow. All right. Let's not forget expert judgment. We don't need to get into that. We know what that means. That is a very qualitative area of the process, and that's where integrity comes in, correct? Because we have two types of experts, don't we? Two types. One who has integrity, and one who is a gangster. But they're both experts.
I believe it.
Yes, they are. Just that one is a liar and one is not. One is a thief and one is not. One has no integrity. It's like that. There are two types of mechanics. Those who will fix your car with integrity and those who will bring them in.
Fix it down so you can come back.
But they're both skilled, aren't they? Indubitably skilled. What is sick? So like I say about expert judgment. The word to the wise is
Sufficient.
management transparency. We talked about that. You have to be open. You can't act suspicious. Because remember, perception is sometimes worse than reality. If you didn't do anything but you're acting suspicious, people will judge you on your actions. For sure. That's why, for example, there's certain places I can't walk into because I may just be walking for soda like that. Like a gay bar. I use that because that's what people talk about all the time. And that's just me. I swear I was only buying soda. They say, we all see Mr. Wilkinson there. We know he's a pump.
Say it right. Say it right.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think against gay.
Go in there to buy a soda.
And then they got you like this.
I'm just being, some devil's advocate. There's nothing wrong with the people. Remember, I already said that. You have to disclaim it. It's just that you can be judged on perception. It doesn't have to be real. Okay? Yeah. So even though I may be dead tasty, I mean,
Try.
walk on until I can find a bar. Not bar, anywhere.
Yeah.
Because people, they say, Mother's again, that's Mr. Wilkinson. She was just told, see that? I know that boy. Next thing you're like, this phone.
On what side?
And dog eat my lunch after that. This me in church, I swear it ain't true. To work, I swear. Everywhere I swear, it doesn't matter anymore. Okay? The phone is done. Snap. And the music in the background. Hey, they can make fun of the President of the United States and I can make why not? We all have our little thing. Okay. So there you have it. Make sure if you're responsible for any kind of rating issues, do not ever think that risk rating is a small matter anymore. That's really the point I'm trying to make. It's a huge responsibility if you're ever given it. And you are expected to do that job as diligently as you do any other job. As a matter of fact, remember that risk rating is like that first impression. When people look at that, they're going to make a decision based on what they see up front, even without having the details yet. A, do it. D, don't do it. So we have to be very careful about all the steps we take. The timeliness, the accuracy, doing things to take away the bias. Make sure your institution doesn't have any kinds of issues to put the risk rating in jeopardy, that you can't trust it and all this kind of stuff. Because the minute that happens, dog eat your lunch. Perception is sometimes worse than reality. Same thing for risk rating and same thing for your organization. Okay? Make sure risk rating is not check the box, like compliance. Some people have a check the box compliance program. They have a thing. Did you passport check? Did it expire? Yes or no? If yes, do this. If no, that's okay. But make sure it's not only that. Okay? Make sure you look at the big picture. That's the key. All right. As you can see, the risk rating discussion keeps going on and on. Happy reading. I think we've made the point about it. But when you're reading this stuff, please bear in mind, especially if you're in credit or in a credit environment, or you're in regulation, that these are the kinds of things you want to keep swirling around somewhere because they impact what you do, either directly or indirectly. Make no mistake about it. Don't presume that because you may not be directly involved, you are not impacted. Remember, under our current laws, if the janitor feels suspicion about something, she or he has to go to the MLRO. Same principle. The janitor? Yes, the janitor. Go to them. I think, hang on. Say, Susie, what you know? She said, I don't need to know. I'm suspicious. Where the hell in the law says I need to know? But Susie might not know that either, but does she need to know for sure? No. Once she feels suspicion, that funny feeling, she has a right to, and a duty in some cases, to report it. Yes?
The director of a firm is the executive director. Can they hand a risk committee? Or is that biased? And they shouldn't report.
Theoretically, they should not. Those kinds of jobs, compliance-related jobs, should be as independent as possible. A lot of firms still have conflict of interest issues going on.
Plenty.
Okay, yeah, too many, because they like topics CEOs and COOs and even board people want to keep their pulse on stuff that is supposed to be independent, so that they could unduly influence the situation, which should not happen. And hopefully, as regulators go in and see this stuff, that's why they keep going and checking and asking questions, because they want to see how independent these jobs are. Once upon a time, for example, if you fired a compliance officer, you just fired them and that was it. Nowadays, if you fire a compliance officer, you have to give up. Did you know that? You now have to give the inspector of the bank a reason why you did it. Does anybody know why? So that they can be satisfied that you are not exerting undue influence on that process.
Same thing with the auditors.
Especially the auditors. I have an article I read the other day in the UK. A couple of years ago, they created a regulatory board to audit the flicking auditors. After so many firms were going underground, following audits. That the regulatory board who was auditing the doggone auditors is going to be removed for another board because they found that that particular board who was audited was ineffective.
What?
How the hell did that happen? But who the hell should we audit? The auditors needed auditing? Regulating? Hell no. That sends the wrong message anywhere in the world. But we know that our auditors have been involved in some very dark and shady, questionable situations. Okay? Many firms have gone under following audits that ought to have unraveled certain things. So now the auditors are being kissed by foot. Hopefully the hell the auditors are being audited. Folks, this little project financing thing is for your own reading pleasure. I'm sick of talking about it's the same principles. But what I want you to do is, when you read this, to recognize that the same principles of lending apply in terms of risk rating, credit risk, policies, and so on apply, especially with regards to what? Projects. Because remember, if you have a project to build a bridge, and they come to you for financing, they need $550 million. That's a very serious situation. Okay? And so that kind of project will require significant management as a lender, if you decide to go with it at all. The biggest problems that you will have is, how will this project what? Repay you? Absolutely. And what will be the same principle, whether it's 5 million or 500 gazillion dollars. Okay? Projects though can be what? Risky, depending on what type of project it is and what? Where it occurs in the world. Because we know that some governments in the world are indeed sick.
I still might go back in the early days when mortgage home builders loan project. We used to go out and do home inspections when in the heavy rain.
Yes.
to see if the line flooded.
Yes. That's how serious we were about our lending practices back then. We
Waited until the rain before you give a decision.
absolutely to see the blood.
Yes, see, this subdivision is gonna flood.
Yes, because sometimes people didn't tell the truth, and sometimes we needed to verify.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you put on your raincoat, umbrella, whatever.
So let's
and
go.
you,
Show
when
me
it
the property
rains,
again.
John, let's go.
Show me this property again.
Absolutely. Just like the cops.
Reclaim land, like swamp land.
Yeah, to see what's
Sandy boy.
what's swamp. Is Sandy Port really swampy?
Yeah.
That's reclaim land.
Oh yeah, that's sinking. That's sinking.
They ain't scared to be out there.
It's
Wow.
sinking now.
It's sinking.
Yeah.
Is that a fact or that's just
No, it's
perception?
sinking. A lot of the buildings are cracking.
What the hell?
You didn't know that?
Well, I mean, I didn't want
You
to
don't
say.
reclaim land.
That's
So what are they going to do about it?
2 years, that's well left.
Well, they're acting like everything's fine.
actually, people are walking away from the properties and tell the banks, keep it, it's yours.
Is that a true story?
Yeah.
What the flick? I didn't see that in the Guardian.
I actually got it.
That's
I
in the
know.
cover.
Yeah, and
Put that showing in a critical report.
At the time,
not necessarily. It
No.
depends on who conducts the.
They needed an engineering report.
Yes.
It depends on who conducts the.
Yes.
Building or?
Remember, there are two types of engineers.
Yeah.
One that's safe.
One that is paid and one that is doing it for the money.
It's like, where does two types of stuff come from? Yeah, we should be able to rely on all this stuff. The only problem is we have to hope that the information we're getting is correct and that we actually hire the right of the two.
This is where you have to indemnify yourself based on the accuracy of the report.
Yeah, good luck with that indemnity. You could try. And remember, indemnity is just a what? A mitigator.
Mitigated.
It's not a guarantee. But nothing wrong with the indemnification. It might save you at the end of the day.
$2.
Yeah, or even save the day. But don't bank on it. Doesn't always save the day, depending on your situation.
Yeah.
For example, once upon a time in the old days, not so old days, somebody built a house and part of it was on somebody else's property. They tried to sell the house, they couldn't sell it. The person on the other side refused to give them claim to it.
Yeah.
So they were stuck. Which
Break it
means the
down.
building stayed there forever and ever.
Break it down.
Yeah, break it down. Leave it there or break it down. Mr. Jones is only 5 feet. I don't care. My land. It's my land. It's my land. It's my land. Shouldn't have built on it in the first place.
So who would absorb that cost in that case? The contractor?
Oh, that's a lot. Not the contract. Well, it's a whole string of people who could be potentially liable from the surveyor straight up the line to the contractor. Because the surveyor may have done it correctly and put the stakes in the right place, but the contractor
Put it
built in the
place.
wrong place, and so on. So it's a long list of stuff to check. In the meantime, Mr. Jones is not giving up any, because all you have to do is say, okay, pay me for that square
And
footage.
their level score before you say,
Of course, sometimes people know.
this, do it.
Sure, because there are two types of neighbors.
That's right, what does it say? Listen, let me watch them.
Ah, what a sick. What a life. So, these projects are highly leveraged. What does that mean? What does highly leveraged mean? In case you're out having a drink and you hear it.
Plenty debt.
Yeah, borrowed money, huge debt. Okay? They usually involve tens of millions of dollars. And so when you are the lender, you need to look very carefully at everything we discuss, then some, and this, then some. Call on all of your experience, all of your judgment. Check the political climate, check the social climate, check the doggone country which is going to take place. Check for swamp land, check everything you could possibly check. And hope that all the reports that you got are from the right of the two. Indeed. Yeah, are there any natural disasters that occur in that area that could, there are a whole lot of things to consider. Okay? So, if you're in lending, trust me, of any kind, it's a huge responsibility. Okay? And of course, cash is still king. So, in doing all your evaluations, you have to make sure that the project is going to generate enough money to what? Pay you your 750 million back. 750 million back.
With interest.
With interest. Sick. But, as incredible as it seems, it happens all the time. Entities are giving credit for these kinds of things all the time. That's why we can look at these kinds of things and say, these are the things to consider. So even if you have a little project at home that's $1,000, you can still apply these principles, can you not?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Especially if you're lending the money to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, consider the management, consider the earnings, consider the industry, consider the government that's not there, consider the land, consider the jurisdiction, consider whether they're liquid or not, consider whether you can protect your assets and your collateral or not, consider what is available for you to hold as a guarantee and security against your multi-million, billion-dollar loan. Speaking about that kind of loan, will the loan for Bahama ever be repaid?
To who?
Tingham down. It's funny now that we're down there in the convention center, like nobody's thinking about the loan. Has anybody thought about that lately? No, we don't give a flying. That's what our problem it is. We're just going down to the next function. And that's how it should be on the one side. But whoever has responsibility, who has to repay that loan?
They have a 5-year waiver of payments. Interest bill up.
Is the interest waived as well?
No.
No. Hell no. Only the principal maybe. Who borrowed the money? Anybody knows?
CCA.
Who?
CCA.
Yeah, like we like say, man, look, it's this old story. We don't care.
The triads on it.
Okay? Who's going to repossess Bahama?
Right?
All right. Welcome to the real world. That's my point. Okay, folks? So, if you're giving big time loans, you have to go through all these ratios. All you need to know, folks, is that these ratios are designed to determine whether or not the borrower can what? Repay you. For example, this cash flow thing is your what? Cash flow divided by your interest, meaning can the interest be paid? That's all that means.
Yep.
This debt service meaning cash flow divided by the debt. Do you have enough cash flow to cover your payments? They all gear towards that. Can you pay us back? And as the lender, you better make sure your ratios are right. Because you have two types of auditors who are supplying you with audit financial statement and ratios. Are you going with a big 4? Or a little 19 or something? I don't know. Your call as the lender. However, if the lender is a friend of one of the guys who run the big 4,
You're in trouble.
doesn't matter how well the others would do it, that's my, yeah, my boy, or whatever. And so the decision will no longer be what? Impartial, it will be partial. Which means that you may not get the independence that you need for that facility, which probably explains why some facilities what? Fail. My. A word to the wise is? Alright. Enough is enough. We already talked about expert judgment. Use it. That is sick. Especially if you're dealing with large scale projects. Get all the information you can. Oh, we're not finished. Where did Miguel put my thing? Did you guys get the other thing?
Yes.
Keep going.
What the fuck? Okay. IT people. Excuse me. I'll be right back.
But it's only like they do, like they.
Everyone said it.
How they have it? You have to identify and you say all, none. No. Are you sure? That's collections. What they do? That's a new, beginner's craft. That's great.
I got a steak. What they said they're supposed to be doing. Everything there. She ain't even talking about it. She called me because when somebody comes in, they can use it. Yeah, so it conflicts.
I see. Okay, he found it. While we wait for him, let's talk about that case study for a moment while we wait for all that blah blah blah. First of all, what do you think about the case? Where did it? What part of the world did that occur? Ghana. Where is that again?
Africa.
Yes. Africa. Do they need help in Africa?
Not really.
Not really. They know what they're doing.
Signing bots.
There's no corruption.
Signing bots.
All right. So what about that case? Or what were you able to pick out of that case that was connected to some of the things we discussed? Relative to the case itself.
The need for separation of decision making.
Yes. What made you come up with that?
Terms of, I mean, it wasn't clearly defined. There was a overlap between who can authorize what and who should be authorized to do what.
Indeed, always a problem. Because remember, whenever big bucks are around, everybody wants to have their
Peace.
yes hand in the pot. Absolutely. So the issue about who has the authority to authorize and how much and all that kind of stuff is absolutely crucial. No one person, for example, should be authorizing everything. It should either be two or more people and or by committee. Did they have a committee in that case? No, because countries like that don't like committees. They like autonomy. What is autonomy? Me, myself, and? No, because if it's only me, I can do what I do best. I can. All right. Anything else other than separation? What else did you notice? Any risk? Needed to be limp.
I mean, it was it's a strong argument. So given the market is the fact that it was and everything else, that it made a strong case.
Was that a good thing? Like
No,
that it would cause him not to be nimble?
but it should be supported by something else.
But by all means, this thing about not being nimble, that's probably just an excuse not to have any
Accountability.
Yeah.
accountability. Because see, once you have a policy in place, you are now accountable. Absolutely. Okay. Did they have any credit limits in the case? No limits. What else? Did they have any scorecards or such
No.
thing?
No.
That's sick.
But the one thing they had for themselves, they said they knew their customers.
They knew their customers. How did they support that? Their KYC, as far as they were concerned, was the bomb.
People of like mind, people same culture, same environment.
Yeah,
I know me, I know my customer kind of
they were giving a loan to somebody. It was a domestic loan.
cross border.
Who were they giving a loan to? Anybody remembers?
No.
But would it matter if you're giving it cross border versus domestic?
No, but the policy.
It shouldn't, but it would. And it shouldn't, and maybe it does. Because if you know them long time in people's mind, it's a little better to easy with them than to deal with them than if they are cross border and they're in yards.
And then another big issue that came up on that in terms of the actual cases, management was subjected to a whole bunch of kickbacks.
How do you know?
Because of the decisions that were made, they could only be made, it was not based on nothing sound.
Yeah, it appears.
Perception.
Perception.
He had perception.
Yeah, based on what you saw.
Interpreted it.
Yeah, it gave you the perception, which is a very serious thing. Remember that one?
There's obviously a lot of corruption.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that there was some level of corruption somewhere. And why not? It's very typical. Is it a fact? We don't know for sure, unless we have the facts, but it's not unusual. For sure. What about collateral and guarantee issues? Did any of that come up in the case?
Yeah.
What collateral were they considering?
No, they place a lot of stuff on guarantees.
Yeah, they did,
Individual
yeah.
guarantees.
Yeah.
Individual guarantees for the facility in case things go wrong. They can run after you, your children, your house, and
Yeah.
everything else.
Knowing full well that the guarantee couldn't have guaranteed, you don't have to buy the guarantee.
But at least they thought maybe they can run you into hell if something goes wrong, even though that doesn't guarantee that things will cause you to be paid in full.
No, I raised the question as to whether it really was set up to make a profit in the first place, or was just there to channel money in and out, to get money to the right people. Kind of.
Interestingly enough, does anybody remember who they were giving the loan to?
Yeah, that's
Or
a
for
pass-
what purpose?
that's a pass-through bank.
What the hell was who?
They need it resolved in that bank, right?
Man, see, the whole idea is who is the borrower? Let's not forget about the lender and their problems with credit policy and all this stuff. The other question is who was the borrower and what kind of due diligence that we needed to do on them. Okay. And depending on what country you're in, to make the wrong credit decision can cost you your.
Life,
Did you know that?
yeah.
Do you know that folks can impose undue influence on you by creating the perception that if you don't do what they want, they will? And in some countries, they actually do kill you if you do not do what they want.
Pack your bag. Pack your bag. Get out.
Wow. Who would think that credit could be that deep? But it doesn't matter. Anything that involves money is always unpredictable. Money and passion. Okay? The guy who chopped up his wife and daughter last night, I wonder what that was about.
Where?
Yeah, right in South Florida. Yeah, with her? The hell is that? Talk about operational risk. That's what that was. Because they were living in house with her.
They didn't do a SWOT analysis.
Apparently not. No, folks, it may seem humorous, but even in our, that's the point I want to make. And this now this conversation about operational risk raises even a more intense question with all the other risks we've already seen with credit and everything else, that you have to do your due diligence or face PD and losing your entire investment. The same thing when you are looking to marry somebody, you can't determine everything, but you have to do some of the same crap.
SWOT analysis.
Yes. Like threats. Let's go to the last one. T. The T in SWOT. What are the potential threats?
Yeah.
If you see the guy or the chick behaving a certain way during the dating thing, you say, "Excuse me, don't move." And don't ever go back. Sometimes we have an idea, just like lenders. I have this feeling in my stomach I should do this loan. I have this feeling. Usually when you get that, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're wrong, and maybe you need to do some more due diligence. But it's the same principle.
Baby mama drama, that's a threat.
Can you imagine that? Who the hell chops up that freaking,
What was it, Dad?
like, I don't know, 10 or something? No, he doesn't need to tell you. He needs a bullet. What the hell are you going to waste all that money on that dude for? That's the other thing. We want to put him in prison, and give him 3 meals a day, rehabilitate him.
Study his mind, study his mind.
Make a series.
Man, look, how much does a bullet cost?
On mine.
Flickin' blam! And throw him in a hole and bury him. Like, what are you going to waste all the resources? And guess what happens? The dude might live to be, what, 97?
That's right.
Help!
We need to suffer.
They're not recording.
No.
I don't want to hear any pots and hands. Let somebody else do that. That dude, just shoot him and bury him. We keep playing our... Oh, I'm sorry. So, that's a sore point. We keep playing around with the problems. That's why they keep getting worse and worse. Shoot it and move on. Because if he was the animal to do that, what should you be wasting time for? Shoot it and bury it and move on.
Send a clear message. Yeah?
And do it quickly.
Yes. Quickly.
Hold on it. Oh, case. So, hopefully, by the way, that situation is what we refer to as operational risk. And you'll see why in a moment. You'll see that most organizations, when they suffer operational risk, the real culprit behind it are people, human beings. Just like that chick that ended watching Netflix probably last night. He thought someone. Okay. So I hope you were able to glean something from that African case, which is pretty typical of most third world countries. Okay? That's why I kind of picked that, so that it can create hopefully a little controversy and a little information at the same time. All right, so what is operational risk? Simple. The risk of loss resulting from what? Inadequate or failed internal processes, like relationships and bad loans and PDs. People and or any type of external event. They're all operational risk areas. Okay? They do not include strategic and
Reputational risk.
they're two different kinds of animals. But this operational thing comes about within the firm that deals with day-to-day issues, relationships, decisions. Kiss my foot. It goes on to say that operational risk also summarizes risk, blah, 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 when it attempts to operate within a what? Given industry. So it goes deep into the firm and it goes outside of the firm. It is the risk that remains after you determine what? Where your money is coming from and what structures you're going to put in place. Okay? It's like getting married, you walking your wife across the threshold, your house is built. See? Darling, we have a few. That's, yeah. And then operational risk kick in. The day-to-day living has now been done. Just like with firms. A lot of firms have died, not because their financing and money and systems were bad, but because of what? Internal issues. Bad decisions from the inside. Anybody ever heard about Enron?
Yeah.
That's sick. Enron was a multi-billion-dollar firm. And if it was run the way it should have been run, it would have been here today. Enron failed because of operational, not financing, I'll tell you why. Because of
Human risk.
a bunch of greedy bastards. Did you know that? Not because they didn't have the market, not because they weren't doing good business and all that. They did very well. But a bunch of greedy, arrogant humans made some poor decisions and brought the company to its knees and all of its pension as well. So those persons who worked there for 40 years lost every bloody thing because of operational risk. Because of a bunch of guys sitting in a room making decisions in their own bloody self-interest. I don't have any bullets for them either. Many people who worked for Enron committed suicide. Did you know it?
Wow.
If you don't know the story of Enron, Google it when you have a moment and read.
There was, you said the definition includes legal risk, but not, okay? But
Yeah,
excludes-
includes legal but excludes strategic and
Reputational.
absolutely.
Why?
Why?
Because can't a failure of a process or issues created by people or systems create a reputational risk?
It could.
It could.
It could. In this case, we're not. When we say reputational risk, we cannot exclude people from any aspect of it. But the reputational risk is more indirect as opposed to direct, and you'll see why very shortly. But it doesn't exclude it entirely. Because wherever there's people, there is, including, absolutely. Okay? So yes, that is a good point. You cannot exclude people from the issue of risk. Okay? This is interesting. Industries with what? Lower human interactions are likely to have what?
Lower operational risk.
What the hell?
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's true to some extent. Because the more people you start adding, the more stuff happens.
Yes.
Absolutely, you don't believe me? If your household has 2 people in it, add 1 more. And all of a sudden the dynamics of your home will change. The organization is the same. Every time you add 1, the dynamics change.
Is that what's driving this whole world of digitalization and technology?
Perhaps in part, but I think the greater thing, the money, maybe that's a secondary issue. Okay? By all means. Right? Oh man, the kinds of operational risks that you see every day, employee errors, they might be small, medium, or large, or even deliberate. Remember those? Some people make deliberate errors. System failures, crap going on every day. Fraud. Anybody ever heard about that one? And criminal activity every day. While we're in this class right now talking about it, somebody's planning and executing some fraud on their firm.
And see, all of that goes back to.
Yes, it does. It does. Okay? And I like that she's not giving, so don't try that. At the end of the day, our reputations are going to be impacted. Don't try to take it out of the equation. And she does have a point. What the heck is that at the bottom?
Any
Business
Business processes.
Oh, well, we see company failures all the time, and that is the result. And usually behind all these failures are what? Human. Some greedy. Boy, greed is a serious thing.
Yeah.
Greed and power. They're the ones that bring most firms down that fail.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Okay? Notice operational risk focuses on how, not necessarily what. How are things being handled? Are you exercising integrity and good judgment or not? Not necessarily what time did you come in, did you execute the reports and so on. Not necessarily the what, but the how. Okay? These risks are often associated with decisions in the organizations in terms of how it functions. Are these decisions good or bad? Are we prioritizing the right things? For example, I understand that only 25% of firms in the Bahamas have pension plans formally. The other 75% of people in this country have no formal pensions. If you don't get something from national insurance, dog eat your lunch. Okay? And so on. Okay? These are all operational risks. Because what kind of risk does it present? If you work for a firm that has no pension, as soon as the firm that has a pension plan offer you a job, you're going to do what?
Leave.
So it is a day-to-day kind of thing for firms, and many firms suffer from that. And some other things which we'll see in a moment. All right? And then these, of course, are some examples of operational risks. All right? If you have to make choices in the firm about how much money to spend, what machinery to use, one is working, one is not. You choose one, you don't choose the other one. Suppose the one you choose is the doggone, the lemon. Should you marry this one, should you marry the, choose the wrong one, marry the wrong one. Dog eat your lunch, you have to run. Same problem. All right, these are all operational risks. All right, operational risks are very, very prevalent in the firm. So a lot of times we don't really can look at things that way, but we confront these things every single day. Some firms don't go under, many fail, but some continue to operate with this risk side by side. It just creates a what? A very disruptive and unpredictable environment. Another reason why people eventually leave firms and go somewhere else hoping to find lesser operational risk. Why do I say lesser? There you can't get rid of risk, no matter what kind it is. Okay? Another example, paying people low salaries to do a great job. They're only going to do that for a while, then they're going to leave. Outsourcing. Anybody else? Company outsources?
Oh, yeah.
Why do companies outsource?
The expertise.
Because they don't have the expertise?
Efficiency.
Because
Efficiency.
efficiency? Maybe the person outside can do it faster, better, cheaper? Of course, all of those things are true. But outsourcing doesn't come without its what?
Risk.
Of course. Because once your stuff get out there, how much control do you have over it?
No.
Not the same.
No.
You better. Or else. Okay? And remember, once you're relying on third parties, you have to rely on their agenda. So if you call them and they don't answer, you have to wait. If you have it in-house, when you call, they have your cell phone, they have to answer. And so on.
I know where to find you.
Absolutely. But if it's third party, you have to wait to find you.
Out of country.
Or right there, right next door, watching it ring. Answer that now. All right. So what are the 10 operational risks that we have out there that creates a nightmare? IT. Anybody agrees with that? Cyber theft. Data cyber theft. Unauthorized. Big problem these days. You can't even turn your phone on. Somebody's trying to break into your phone. The doggone take everything and egg you up. Okay? Regulatory risk. The evolving nature of the regulators means that they're going to come faster, sooner, and better equipped. Get your act together. That's the whole idea. And these are all operational day-to-day. Theft and
Fraud.
that's sick. Compromised data. Disruption in the IT. Do you know that the IT department oftentimes are the gods of the company? And oftentimes, yes. Most companies don't even realize that they're being held hostage by their IT departments. And sometimes in IT, there might be 10 people in there, but one person has all the key stuff, and the other 9 are just keystroking. How the hell did that happen? So you piss off that person, and you that's like cussing out your doctor just before an operation.
Complications during surgery.
And over there's my liability insurance to cover the cost of suit. But you ain't gonna cuss me no more, kind of thing. God forbid it doesn't happen. But you never know, because there are 2 kinds of doctors. Those who have integrity, and those who you cannot piss off. Because they might take it personally, and even though they're supposed to separate their feelings from thing under the knife, they might merge the feeling while they have the knife.
There was a case the other day where during surgery, one of the physicians, you're on their phone and leave the phone inside the person's chest.
For real? That's a true story?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
The phone rang, and that's the only way they was trying to find out where this phone was. While the person was already
Can you believe that?
stitched back up.
Did it just fall in, or did he put it in there? Some lawyer is going to convince some jury that he put it in there because he was a sadistical bastard, and he had to see how the outcome would be. What it sounds like to hear a phone ring.
Thank God it was not on silent.
It's somebody's. That is negligent. What's he doing in the room?
People freak out. What's going on with my hand?
What's going on?
They heard the ring inside.
Outsourcing, as efficient and great as it might be careful, watch it, monitoring it, know who the hell you're outsourcing it to. Make sure their background and reputations are acceptable. Because if you outsource to the wrong person, it's like marrying the wrong person. Sorry, just to keep you in the... number 6, mis-selling. Okay? Giving people the wrong information about your products, misleading them. Companies do it all the time. That is an operational risk, because when you are found out, you will be what? Exposed.
Reputation.
There you go. Back to, Talent risk, what is that? Companies always looking for better talent. You better keep your people satisfied, because the first chance they get, they're going to run off with the Rodriguez guy who's going to marry Jennifer. Hey, somebody's been there. Was that? Okay, number 8, organization change. The pressure to keep pace with technological change is a huge operational issue. Things are changing all the time. Some people's systems are outdated, breaking down. Only one person knows. It's a whole bunch of problems with this IT thing. Anyway, if you don't believe it, ignore it. Chance I didn't tell you. All right, unauthorized trading, big problem. Rogue trading, ever heard about them? Guys who are trading outside their limits and doing all kind of crap and not reporting, and then all of a sudden the company loses tens of millions and billions of dollars. Happened many times. Oh yes, you saw that. Okay, so if you work in a trading environment, you better be just like your IT people. You have to watch them, and they don't want to be watched. As soon as you watch an IT person, they be like, they close the computer and leave the room and go to lunch, because they run every flipping one, including the CEO, the board, everybody. Because their attitude is, piss me off then.
Yeah.
Deny your access.
It's piss me, see that, piss me off.
I dare you.
Let me press the button.
Double dare you.
Access denied.
I know it sounds crazy, but you'd be surprised how operational and related risk can be a nightmare waiting to happen. Maybe for some firms it hasn't happened yet, but for many it has already happened. You just don't hear anything about it. It's like the swamp land that people said, you don't see it in the paper. Because how do you write up about the glorious, what the place is that's on swamp land? Of course. How do you put on the front page that Sandy Port is safe?
Yeah, I'm serious. I never heard that one.
Never. Is that an operational risk? You're damn right it is. That's a huge operational risk. As a matter of fact, that's an operational risk that probably should never have happened in the
First place.
Who the hell approved that?
Yeah.
Which government department approved the building of Tingham on Tingham sinking sand? That's not operational.
Yeah.
Tell me what is. Because all you needed was one government official, one human being, to say that is swampland, and it is therefore, listen to me, it is therefore the policy of this, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to not approve it. 110.
110 all over.
And then there would be no sinking sand.
Yeah.
And furthermore, anybody found building on sinking sand will be fined and imprisoned.
Oh, yeah.
Bastards.
What?
How about that?
Money talks now, money talks.
I know. That's why it takes a special person to do this crap. See? You no regular person. You have to be like Abe Lincoln, ready to die to make these kind of decisions. You have to take an Abe approach. Abe always knew somebody would try and take him out. He said it many times. I fear that as a result of my decision to free the slaves, that somebody's not going to be happy. I fear that. Dr. King feared it too. Yeah, they do. So, this crap, yes. You have to be bold. Let's see. Alright. And then, of course, model risk. If your model is old, like Blockbuster, change it. Change it. I see my wife, man, that chick, she ain't checking for no age. She says age is only your
Number.
yeah, she doing all kind of crap. I'm like, what are you doing, sweetheart? She's like,
Remodel it,
she's like, you can get old on your
Oh,
but age is not, that chick ain't even thinking about it.
Upgrade, sir. Upgrade.
You better keep up.
She's gonna, yeah, I like that. This kind of That's how she's like, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. I'm not kidding, it's crazy as hell. So yeah, but same thing with firms. Change the model. If the model is old and the competitors are moving ahead of you, change the model so you can what? Keep up. Otherwise you're gonna die the death.
That's right.
That's it. Alright? Principles again, but this time principles for what? Operational risk. But you'll find that the players are the same. Number one, who's responsible? The board. Number two, who should implement? Top management. Okay? Number three, who should direct it and make sure it happens? The board again. See? Doesn't matter what we call the risk, the same players. Number four, who again? Fucking board. Should approve the risk appetite. How much risk we're prepared to take, like the swampy land. The board hereby says, hell no. See what I mean? Then there'd be nothing built on swampland. Because the board makes a decision that we're not prepared to take on that risk. We don't have the appetite for it.
No.
See? Principle 5, senior management's job is to make sure that they do what these guys say, not their own thing.
Oh.
See? Senior management again. So you notice there's a trend. Board, senior management, board, senior management. Most of our problems, therefore, it appears,
Are people related?
and at the top, further to the top, not us, down, like further down, like gang to the top, and the whole, yeah. Principle 7, senior management again. Principle 8, senior management again. Principle 9, board and senior management. Because that's their job, to control the environment. Not our job. Our job is just to be the slaves, the dogs of the firm, to get things done. Their job is to make sure that these things are done properly. Principle 10, banks should have business I'm sure you've heard about business continuity. Does everybody's firm have that already? Good. But they have to force us to do it. And still some firms jiving, but we have one server. We need 5, but we have 1. What's going to happen to that 1 eventually? And it's going to crash before the hurricane.
Where is it located?
Hopefully it doesn't crash during the hurricane. Yeah, where is it located? In the Dominican Republic,
Oh, no.
just outside of Haiti, where you cannot go when gas prices go. So that's, they can't hardly go at all. Is it? Who are you? Well, I'm from the Bahamas, where a lot of you guys have come in. Well, we don't care. It says, it's all I'm saying, yeah. I know it's crazy, but there is some reality to it. Operational risk. Who's behind operational risk? People. 90% or more of your operational risk will come through people in one form or another. Whether it's decision-making, character, whatever the hell it is. All right? And then number 11, a bank's disclosure. Big deal, because banks and lenders and stuff have been hiding stuff a lot. And help getting used, and guess what? Paying their auditors off to do what? Hide. Big 4 firms says, I'll give you another $15 million to hide that. Jonathan. And I'll pay for you to go to the Bahamas, and yeah. Whatever. Just don't disclose that. It will ruin us. And sometimes the auditors do what?
They compromise.
Agree, yes.
Willful blindness.
Willful. They know that they blood operational risk. And it's all about what?
Risk appetite.
See? Appetite. Appetite. Your appetite can make you.
Or break you.
Did you know that?
Even health-wise.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Right?
Absolutely. Mr. Stubbs, if one wife is not enough, then you'll have the appetite to get.
It's too much.
I know, I'm just picking on him. I'm picking on him because he's a young man. I love it.
He saw that Santa coming back.
Yeah. It reminds me of the good old days. Way to go, I love it, trust me. If you're not married yet, do it. Take a risk. Bet your appetite and do it. Why should the rest of us suffer? I'm not just kidding. All right. Anything else about risk? Well, manage it. Same as the other risks we're talking about. Manage it, manage it, manage it. All right, folks. So that's it. I hope I left you guys with something to think about in the world of risk. And just beware that as you move, you are moving in a risk environment. Whether it's your job, your home, your church, or your anything. Risk is always yes. Good luck and take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
I ain't gonna talk. I'm gonna speak with Miguel and ask him if he can
Okay, Mr. President, I know what I can do with myself now next Tuesday.
He's so used to it.
Thank you very much,
You
yes.
made it exciting, I like how you brought it.
Yeah, that's very important to say. Sometimes you get them too. Bye-bye, take care. Take care, young man. Take care.
No, it would be good to know for a home, it'll be set up even before the month, because come in, they will get people like us. He said after the third module, I think he said.
Oh, really?
When you say the month was after the third module, right?
Could I do the mark in?
No.